Hi guys, welcome to Maybe News. Today I've made you a video, actually the second part of the first video, about 10 historical events that changed the world. If you liked this video, give it a thumb up and subscribe our channel. Let's get started. 10. French Revolution. It is not possible to overstate the importance of the French Revolution to world history. Not only did it shape the entire modern world as we know it, and paved the way for capitalism to conquer feudalism, it set the stage for revolutionary uprisings and changes in all parts of the globe. The period of radical social and political upheaval during the French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars that followed had a lasting impact not just on France or Europe, but the entire planet. It will always be remembered as the event that ended feudalism and whose shockwaves led to a total transformation of social structures in every country. 9. Civil War in the United States. Many people think that American Civil War between the Union and the Confederacy merely had implications for the continental United States, but the success of a slaveholding confederacy stretching across a territory larger than any other European power would have been a major setback to the world anti-slavery movement, to say nothing about Republican democracy. We have to remember that the world wasn't exactly safe for Enlightenment ideas in the mid-1800s. Monarchy had been advancing in Europe, and democratic ideals had been on a retreat since the failed revolutions of 1848. Napoleon III reigned as emperor in France. Slavery still existed in countries like Cuba and Brazil, and the European imperial project, started in 1492, was still ongoing in the Western Hemisphere. All that changed when the Union won. The Republic was restored and slavery was made illegal, delivering a crushing blow to the global slave trade and absolute monarchies. To this day, it remains the deadliest war in the US ever fought, and it's difficult to comprehend how different the last 150 years would have been if the Union hadn't won. 8. Industrial Revolution. From the 18th and the 19th centuries, something amazing came out from Britain. Before, manufacturing mostly came out of people's homes or at shops, but suddenly all that shifted to major factories with machines helping mass produce all kinds of textiles. It's called the Industrial Revolution, and it changed Britain, Europe, and America from mostly agrarian societies to urban and industrial. Out of it came major innovations like trains and automobiles. Even though it provided serious challenges for the poorer classes, it improved the lives of the middle class. 7. Medical Revolution. Imagine a world without doctors or modern medicine. It's hard to believe that as recently as few centuries ago, even with our improved understanding of human anatomy, diseases were thought to be caused by evil spirits or as a divine punishments for sinners. The work of Louis Pasteur led to a wide acceptance of the germ theory of disease, which allowed for cures for many infectious diseases to be developed in the 19th century. The invention of vaccines eliminated horrific diseases like smallpox from the face of the earth and immunized children against polio and rabies. Public health measures were passed as the growing populations of cities made systematic sanitation necessary. Alexander Fleming invented penicillin as the first real antibiotic in 1928, which proved to be effective against many deadly bacterial infections. These developments, along with advances in technology, chemistry, and biology, led to the age of modern medicine. 6. Assassination of Archduke Ferdinand II. Historians now say that all roads in the 20th century led to World War I, which was caused by the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austrian throne by Yugoslav nationalist Gavrilo Princip in June 1914. By August of that year, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, Germany declared war on France and Russia, and Britain declared war on Germany, starting a chain reaction of events that eventually involved all the great powers of the time. The Great War was the first time modern lethal weapons were used in conventional warfare, including chemical weapons and tanks. Over 9 million people were killed, and whole empires, like that of Russia, Germany, the Ottomans, and Austria, were dismantled. World War II's origins can be tracked back to the tenuous peace forged after World War I, known at the time as the Great War. No one could imagine anything worse until the world had to face World War II a few decades later. 5. World War II. This is one of the few wars that literally involved most of the world. The scarring from the 6-year fight is still seen today in the demolished buildings and the tattooed numbers on the arms of foes. There was no one main objective or enemy. There was no main front. It was composed of the European, African, and Asian segments of the war. It ripped through every economic level, race, religion, and culture. Country after country fell into another hands. Men, women, and children were killed by the millions. Many lost their loved ones and had to seek new lands to call home as there was so much devastation. World War II also led to the creation of the United Nations, a homeland for Jews, and the beginning of the Cold War. The world had changed and was never to return to the innocence it once claimed. It was the unmasking of an underlying evil that took an ugly shape in the Cold War. Only as the truth of the massacres, plots, and campaigns have revealed themselves has the world truly begun to heal. 4. First man landing on the moon. On July 20, 1969, American astronauts Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin became the first humans ever to land on the moon. About 6.5 hours later, Armstrong became the first person to walk on the moon. As he took his first step, Armstrong famously said, "That's one small step for a man, and one giant leap for mankind." The Apollo 11 mission occurred 8 years after President John F. Kennedy announced a national goal of landing a man on the moon by the end of the 1960s. Apollo 17, the final manned moon mission, took place in 1972. 3. Tearing down the Berlin Wall. Tearing down a wall might not seem like much, but when you realize what else came down with that wall, you begin to see in a whole new light. At the end of World War II, there was a relief at the downfall of a disturbed man who wanted to dominate the earth. However, there was also suspicion between countries and a desire to control as much land as possible. The nations that defeated Hitler and his friends began to quarrel amongst themselves. Should the defeated lands be democratic in nature or communist? The end result was a lesson from King Solomon: split the spoils down the middle. Germany was the embodiment of war, and therefore it became the most disputed area. In the end, it was split in half, with one part under a communist government and the other under a more democratic style. Through the middle of Berlin, a large wall was built to separate the capital city and symbolize the wall that separated the communist world from everyone else. When the wall came down in 1988, it signified the end of communist rule and birth of the voice of the people. 2. JFK assassination. President John F. Kennedy championed many efforts during his time as United States President, including softening tensions during the Cold War, advancing the space program, and fighting for civil rights. But with his assassination, much of his efforts were suddenly thrown into limbo. Luckily, his successor President Lyndon Johnson helped push forward his vision, and Johnson used JFK's legacy as a way to push Congress to pass the Civil Rights Acts, as well as found NASA. The biggest impact of the JFK assassination could arguably be the continuation of the Vietnam War. 1. Digital revolution. With the advances of computers and the internet, the digital revolution has and continues to change the economic and information landscape. In many parts of the world, new businesses and jobs have grown out of the creation of the internet. But it also has provided challenges. With hackers stealing millions of dollars and identities, the mass spying from the NSA, and the use of false information to disrupt democracies, we certainly live in a brave new world. And that's all for today. Thanks guys for watching, and if you have any ideas for the next episode, you can write them in the comment section below. See you in the next episode.